Hi, so another really quick vlog, but this time on something I think might interest a lot of us, and Blizzard don't seem to want to touch with the barge pole. So after Ian Hazzikostas and Blaw's recent Q&A last Thursday, it was a whole host of things where I thought, oh, I'd like to do some really focused vlogs on various aspects of those. And one of them that stuck in my mind was a question that was asked about doing Q&As but for specific classes or specs, or class roles I suppose you would say. Now, the response from this as to why they can't do it, there are a couple of things they said. First of all, Law said something a little bit silly, really. He said, well, we can't, there's a lot of, developers work on the classes. We can't really get them all in this little room, as if that's what we were asking for. And then the second thing Ian Hazzikostas said, well, the issue is that when we do the live Q&As on, for example, a new patch that's just come out, as they did last Thursday, that's of interest to everyone, their whole player base. Whereas if they choose to do it on, say, Warlocks, that is only of interest to 1/12 of their player base because it's one of the 12 classes. So they're only serving 1/12 as opposed to, 12/12s. Okay, that's fine. Now, here is my response to that immediately. The first one is that obviously it's ridiculous. We're not expecting to have a whole panel of developers in and asking questions like you would at BlizzCon. We're talking about a very focused on a particular class rolling around, a bit like, Bay does on Final Boss. And I'm going to come back to that as well. Now, here is the thing. Ian Hazzikostas said we're only serving 1/12 of the player base. But actually, most of the time, they're serving 0/12 of the player base. Because if you think about this way, last week they did a live Q&A. And by the way, before I go any further, I do want to say that I think these live Q&As are absolutely fantastic. I don't think they need to be live, by the way, because all the questions are pre-prepared. So there's no need for it to be live. But the actual idea of it, which very much clearly comes from Ian Hazzikostas, these things started when he was sort of, being promoted, and now he's game director. They're in full swing. It's got to be his idea, and I applaud him 100% for this. The fact that he fronts them up a lot of the time as well, he's not just kicking other developers on to do them. I don't know whether, some developers like doing them and some are going, oh my god, I'm not looking forward to this. I really don't know about that. But thumbs up to all of the ones who've done them, and especially to Ian Hazzikostas for this. Okay, it's absolutely marvellous. I don't want people putting the usual comments below, go, oh, you're never happy, are you? They do something, you're still not happy. No, I'm perfectly happy with those. I just think they could do more. So yeah, last week they did a live Q&A on patch 7.2. They said that they're going to do one for patch 7.2.5 next month, or something like that, in some weeks' time. Well, what about the intervening weeks? What about the previous weeks, because it's about a month since they did their last one, for example. Why can't it be a weekly thing? And when they've got something that's going to be of interest to all 12/12 of the player base, you do that, sure, great. But on a week when there's not, why not just do a class one? Just rotate it around, a class role combination. So why not do one for Warlocks? And then do one for Brewmaster Monks? And then do one for DPS Warriors or something like that? Surely serving 1/12 of the player base is better than 0/12 because that's what's going on during that week. Now I know what some people may say. They may say, but the thing is there's a lot of preparation. You don't understand the preparation that goes into it, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think I do, because I do them myself. For example, next weekend, I'm going to be doing my usual live Ret Q&A. Now, I can't answer the questions in the same way Blizzard can. I'm not a developer. But and mine lasts longer than Blizzard's. I still have a little bit of preparation. It's not as much as you might think. And I still do these things. It's the amount of work I need to put into it is no more than the amount a developer or a community manager, because the community managers surely are the ones who set these up. The developers are just the ones who need to go there and answer them. So the actual amount of time required to do these things is not that great. Arguably, Bay, who does Final Boss, has to put in more time than I do because he has to get interviewers. He gets people on, whereas I'm just doing it myself. So Blizzard could easily do it. So I don't think there is really an argument about a lot of preparation time. There is almost no preparation time. In fact, if you're willing to answer questions as they come up live, there's no preparation time. But I understand they don't want to do that. So what are some of the pitfalls that they may fear with this? First of all, answering questions that might let the cat out of the bag. A developer is working on all sorts of things, and some of those things will be ideas, and some of those ideas may come to fruition. Maybe they think ideas are almost ready. Maybe they, because sometimes developers don't even realize what has actually gone live, and it's, you know, perfectly understandable. For example, when Law was talking about the fact that flying can now break the Kirin Tor quest, you know, Ian Hazzard-Costas' response to that was, yeah, I'm not surprised. He didn't actually know for certain about this. He just wasn't surprised that that was a thing that happened. And the same thing might happen here. So what if a developer accidentally talks about something that hasn't been officially announced and doesn't want to be? Maybe even talk about something that they were going to do but decided against it. But maybe it's something that would be really popular and they've decided against it for some other reason. So there is that fear. And of course, that will add on preparation time, because they'll... at the point at which you fear that, it does mean you're going to have pre-prepared questions, and that means you're going to have to go through them and with your boss, Ian Hazzard-Costas, or some other senior developer within the class team. You might fear treading on a colleague's toes. So maybe the dev might agree with something the community is saying, that someone's saying, but that the majority of developers were convinced of something else. It's very difficult in that situation. I know this from experience. It's very difficult in that situation where, on the one hand, you need to toe the party line, you know, present this, front. But if you feel that you're having to defend a viewpoint that is the opposite of your own, you agree with the people arguing against it, it's very difficult to maintain that. So maybe there's a fear of that as well. The other thing is the potential for getting lots of questions or requests which are not realistic. You know, sometimes, I mean, let's be fair, some people will ask for something or expect Blizzard to do something that isn't realistic, especially when it's on class lines. You only have to look at PvP forums, don't you, to see how unreasonable some people can be. Because what are PvP forums? Ultimately, they're class forums in another guise, aren't they? Because that's what PvP is all about, class balance. So whenever you've got a class thing, and you know, there are lots of people who don't really see things from other points of view that will say, my class is too weak, all other classes are overpowered. They just see it like that, in black and white like that. So they could well, and you can always argue, well, I'm sure they'll have lots of questions. They could just, you know, accidentally gloss over the silly questions. But what if the community really gets behind one particular thing and it's like, you can't really ignore it. So again, the live thing goes away. You're going back to pre-prepared questions. All right, then there is a bit more of an element of preparation about it. But here's the thing. So what I would do as a solution, I still think this is a goer. They do want to select the questions in advance. The community managers, they say they do this anyway. They get questions from the community and go back to the development team and then go back to the community. So the actual time taken to do this, you know, the time taken to sift through the questions and then go through with developers on it shouldn't actually be any greater. It should be what they're doing day to day, what they tell us they're doing day to day anyway. The team can then obviously veto any questions that might actually stray into dodgy territory. The thing about potentially treading on a colleague's toes, just get someone who's got a sense of diplomacy about them. I mean, not everyone is cut out for doing sort of PR, public relations. Fine. Just get someone who is more cut out for that. I mean, out of this huge team of devs, you might find that there are some people who are just far too blunt, like myself, who wouldn't necessarily be much good at it. You might find there are some people who just don't want to do it, and they shouldn't be forced to do it. But amongst that, you know, supposedly large team of developers, surely there's one developer who would not only have the tact and subtlety to be able to do it, but also have the willingness to put themselves out there as well. I mean, they do this at BlizzCon anyway. I mean, surely it's a much less intimidating atmosphere doing it to a camera, much as I am now. And the other thing is the third one about getting questions that are not realistic. I mean, that's a potential pitfall for any discussion, I would say. And obviously, I mean, that's a pitfall they face at BlizzCon every year. And again, much more controlled in this sort of environment anyway. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about that anyway. But anyway, those are my thoughts on it. What are your thoughts? Do you think it's unreasonable? You know, especially when they have done far more than they have in previous years in giving us these discussions. It is giving us an insight. You know, Ian Hazzard-Costas has driven this drum of, you know, we want to get more communication there. Do you think we should be satisfied with that? Are we appearing maybe ungrateful to expect the class Q&As? Or do we actually think that, no, you know, we should have those as well, and that actually, although it's a big improvement us getting these Q&As, it's the sort of thing that should always be in place in the first place? So let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you found it interesting. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share for further content. And until next time, I'll see you later.